Join us on the last bus home.
So if your milk's sour and your socks are stiff, you, mate, have got a poltergeist.
When you put it like that, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes you've just got to just take a different look, different angle, haven't you?
That's it. Best way to view the world.
Well, thank you for that, Lee. But I'm sure there are other reasons that you've dragged me here.
There are, mate. Tonight, we're going to be doing witches. And I mean proper witches, okay? Not the Instagram crystal ones, the ones who got hanged, strangled, burned, and in one case, pressed to death with big rocks. Because nothing says reasonable justice system like crushing a person with stones. You dig?
Well, that's it. You put them through a deadly trial. If they die, they're not a witch. But if they survive, they're a witch, and then they get killed.
Can't argue with that. Logic.
Well, yeah. Again, I see your angle, but I'm not entirely sure. I fully agree, but sure, by the next stop this bus comes to, I might do.
It's my mission, mate. It's my mission. So we're mainly going to be doing the UK tonight, but we will nip over to other parts. Salem, because Salem, innit? Got to do that when we're doing a witch episode. But yeah, a few other spots if we've got time. So let's crack on, mate. So picture this, right? It's the 1500s to the 1600s. Life is short, brutal, and everyone smells like shit, okay? So if your cow dies, chances are you got a witch. If your baby's got gout, that's it, is a witch. Your beer, does it taste like piss? Definitely a witch, okay? But 9 out of 10 times, it was just the old dear down the lane who probably talks to her cats.
And pissed in your beer.
And pissed in your beer,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
What would you say is your favourite witch movie?
My favourite witch movie? I'm not entirely sure I've got one. Possibly, I'd probably have to go with Witches of Eastwick, just, Jack Nicholson.
Fair play, mate, fair play. I'm going to go with The Craft. So that was pretty cool. Good film. But yeah, you've gone for the slightly more kiddified one. And that's fair play, mate. I'm not judging.
Kiddified.
I just went for the hotter one.
You've gone for the slutty Halloween one.
Hell yeah.
The St. Trinians of the Harry Potter world.
You knows it. You knows it.
Okay, fair enough.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is give you a really quick little timeline of some witchy goodness. This was over the UK and USA, just to sort of give you and our listeners the kind of time period that we're covering there, because it was grim. All right. So 1542 was when England actually criminalised witchcraft. So you were getting punished if you were doing any of that witchy shit. 1604 saw England's harshest laws brought in. So not a good time to be a witch.
So when was it first outlawed?
So 1542.
1540, and then 1604.
So yeah, so all that time it was a crime, but then 1604 they went really hard on it and they brought in some really brutal laws. This was in England.
So at first, for the first 60 years, they thought they were going a bit soft on it.
Possibly, and maybe it was building up, and they just thought, actually, we're going to have to bring some laws in on these girls. Okay, can't have them all running around doing witch stuff, right?
Well, true. You can't just let people do magic for nothing. It's an unfair advantage.
And that's why we needed the boy Hopkins, the Witchfinder General, to come in and do his executions. And this kind of happened around 1645 to 47. So this was peak English executions. Was not a good time, again, to be a witch. little bit later, in 1692, this is when we saw the Salem hysteria. So it was all happening, not just England. 1736 was the time when Britain finally decriminalised witchcraft. So pretty much throughout the 1500s and the 1600s, this was a thing. So yes, mate, wasn't a good time to be a lady talking to your cats, or, as we'll come to learn, just probably a poor gal who has maybe done something to piss off a fella and is like, this gal's a witch. I married a goddamn witch. Am I right, fellas? Then the fellas have to come in with the burning torches and, don't worry, bro, we got this.
Point, yeah.
Marry someone else.
So when they decriminalised it, when they made it okay to be a witch again, did suddenly, like, a load of old ladies give a sigh of relief and go, whew, and then start doing magic, or was pretty much life the same because witches may or may not be real?
Who knows? I would say decriminalisation of anything would bring around a resurgence.
So was there a resurgence in magic?
Not that I know of. Didn't come across that in my research, but just based on what humans do, I would say, yeah. I would say there was a big resurgence in witches, warlocks, all that kind of stuff. As you know, we have today. I mean, they exist. We see it in all kinds of forms.
Well, yeah, and I can't stress enough how convinced I am of the witch abilities.
There you go. Witches and UFOs. They're your thing. So in Britain, we actually killed fewer witches than the continent. So Europe was on about 40 to 60,000 executions during that time, and we only managed about 2,000 to 3,000 tops,
Really?
mostly in Scotland. Yeah, because Scotland went full on. Okay, Scotland was the absolute bad boys of witch burning. England was more like, few thousand, few hundred a day, we'll call it there. Wales didn't want to know at all. Ireland was like, we've probably got bigger problems than witches right now, so they weren't really involved. There you go. So Wales had 5 executions in 200 years, which is practically atheist by the 17th century standards. So there you go. It was Scotland who killed a lot of witches, and they went hard as well. They mostly burned their witches, where England went a bit more chill and did like hanging and stuff. Not as bad, but still pretty bad.
No, I think some of the British methods were maybe dragged it out a bit longer, so they maybe didn't have time to kill as many because they spent longer killing the individuals.
This was it. A lot of pre-torture was involved, shall we say. So I think a lot of false confessions came out, as you would.
The old warm-up querying.
You knows it.
Yeah, I know that.
So belief in witchcraft across the United Kingdom, it's got its roots like in Christian folklore, medieval Christian demonology. Witches were often portrayed as individuals, predominantly women, who entered pacts with the devil, and they used familiars. So you might be familiar with a familiar. They're like animal spirits, usually a cat, but we can have all sorts.
Now, the other people did claim to be able to spot a familiar. Would that mean the familiar isn't actually a cat, but it's a demon, like the witch's boss, disguising itself as something every day, which then technically you could refer to as a skinwalker? Or would it have characteristics of a skinwalker, like its legs weren't quite right, or it wasn't walking quite as fluidly as a cat would? Or
I'd say full-on shapeshifter. So I say when that cat is in cat form, you won't be able to know the difference. You'll be sat there.
You're good at it.
Yeah, really good at it. You'd be sat there like a mug with a cat on your lap, stroking it, like, nice pussy. You got the devil on your lap, pal.
Easily.
Just saying. Always be wary of familiars. Okay?
If you get the chance, when you meet a familiar, is be as unfamiliar as you can.
You knows it. So yeah, these gals were said to cast spells. They consulted supernatural forces for their own personal gain. And this just basically spread as stuff does through humans. Paranoia, like I said, around the 16th and 17th centuries, amid religious upheaval, political instability, and social tensions like poverty and disease. So everyone's depressed anyway. So why not throw witches into the pile? That's how we do. Okay? So legally, witchcraft became a capital crime, as discussed earlier, in England and Wales and basically the UK. There was an actual Witchcraft Act of 1563, and this was written, death for invoking evil spirits or causing harm. So it wasn't like you were going to do 2 years in the clink or some community service. If you was found to be a witch, done for, pal. Absolutely done for. So Scotland's equivalent act passed in the same year, so everyone kind of moved on it. They had a bit harsher enforcement under the Kirk, which is the church courts in Scotland. As I said, Ireland, they followed English law post-plantation. Executions were typically, from what I could gather, hanging. But like I say, Scotland went really hard on the burnings because that's just how they do. So prosecutions actually peaked during the English Civil War in the 1640s and declined, as I said, by the late 17th century, pretty much just due to scepticism, people being like, actually, I don't really think they're witches, so we should probably stop killing them. Then the Witchcraft Act of 1735 decriminalised it.
I suppose it falls in line with the younger aristocracy of the time deciding that partying incredibly hard was more important, and that they should maybe let these loose witches, give them a little break and invite them to their hellfire parties.
So here's some famous witches in history. So I'll just take a few examples. A few from America, a few from the rest of the world. So Bridget Bishop from the 17th century, and she was in Massachusetts. She was the first victim of the 1692 Salem witch trials. She was executed for outspoken nature and her scandalous red clothing. Okay? She had alleged spectral attacks, So
those Puritan fellas were not appreciating the mouth on her.
No, not all. Not all. She was walking around singing about a WAP, and some Puritans thought, nah, I'm not having this.
Handing out her opinions like cakes.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
Okay.
Can't be doing that in the Puritan area.
They did take their God very seriously, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what you did back in the day, mate. Drink mead and take your God seriously. So, moving on. Tituba, 17th century again, and also from Massachusetts. So this enslaved woman from Barbados who confessed, probably while being tortured, to witchcrafts during the Salem witch trials, describing pacts with the devil and night flights. So her testimony fueled quite a bit of hysteria. I'm kind of guessing she saw a dark end. That's kind of what happened. A lady called Malin Matsdotter from Sweden. This was the last woman executed for witchcraft in Sweden in 1676, accused by her own daughters of abducting children to satanic rites during the Great Noise Witch Hunt, which was a witch hunt that occurred in Sweden. Not the best when you get dobbed in by your own kids. Someone you might know, mate, Mother Shipton. You heard of the gal?
Yes, but knowing her, that's a rumour.
True. You ever been to a cave?
I have.
Good man. Mother Shipton's cave. Not too far from where me and Scott live, but
It's not too far from where I was birthed. But yeah,
nice.
Mother Shipton's cave, I'm aware of it. I actually visited there year before last.
Oh, really? Cool. I ain't been in a while. I need to go. I think old Jimmy Savile frequented it a lot as well. That was one of his favourite places.
Yeah, Paul Daniels owned it for quite a while.
Oh, that's magic.
There you go. I do have a story, though. I won't include names, But an acquaintance of mine once got drunk and broke in.
No way. That'd be a
Yeah.
nice place to break into.
He broke in because we were living in Knaresborough at the time, and which is where Mother Shipton's cave is. And he broke in. He was a bit of a lad, and he peed on the statue of Mother Shipton. And he came back zipping his fly, saying, "The bitch didn't predict that, did she?"
Ooh.
He didn't mess around, and I'll be lying if I say I didn't laugh quite a lot.
I bet, mate. I bet. I'd love to break into there. That'd be a great place to spend the night.
It's better than spending 25 quid to get in, mate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, this legendary prophetess was born in a cave in 1488. So famous for her airy predictions like the Great Fire of London. It's kind of badass if she did predict that. Not sure how accurately she got it, but she was said to see a lot of things. She was a bit of a future seer, should we say. Okay, Marie Laveau in the 19th century Louisiana. So she was called the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, a free woman of color who practiced voodoo healing, midwifery, and community leadership. So she was kind of a good witch. She drew crowds for her rituals and her charms. So a little example there of a good witch. Not that I'm saying Mother Shipton wasn't, or any of the other ladies were doing satanic stuff, but ain't no wrong with a little bit of voodoo.
So I think Mother Shipton just had a very unfortunate body development, and actually, like many ghosts, I don't think there are many ghost stories of Mother Shipton, which is surprising because she was jilted by a soldier.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is pretty much the making of a ghost.
Definitely. She fancied a bit of the squaddy, and he said, "Nah, love."
I think he eventually thought, nah, because she might have just said some silly things to him, and he wasn't in for it. He just didn't like it. She has predicted the end of the world 3 times, and I think 2 of them have already happened.
To be fair, if I was in Leeds City Centre on a night out and I pulled a witch and she took me back to this cave, which was...
After you've been to the Key Club or Cockpit or
yeah. I'd just be like, I don't know, I've got to think about my life choices. Sorry.
It's cold.
Don't call me.
No matter how many blankets you got.
This is it. Okay, I just wanted to go into some real life witches and a little bit more kind of like detail on the story.
Sorry, real life? Are you just... What, are we saying that those previous ones are all fake?
Not so much fake, but there was a lot of lore around it. I mean, was Mother Shipton a witch? Did she have familiars? Did she cast spells? There's no real evidence of that. These ones is a real, mate, okay?
Okay.
So I'll run through a few of these.
Let's go.
So Alice Keitler in Ireland in 1324. That's really old, mate, before it all really started kicking off. And this was the first witch. This is it, mate. This was the first witch record in Europe. So Dame Alice Keitler was a wealthy moneylender in Kilkenny whose 4 husbands all died under suspicious circumstances. And guess what? Each one leaving her a bit more richer. Sounds like a witch to me. When husband number 4 started wasting away, his children accused Alice and her servants of poisoning him with witchcraft. What it made dark, they claimed Alice had a demon familiar, a black creature named Robin Artisan, who appeared to her as a shaggy black man or a huge black dog. She allegedly paid him with blood drawn from her lovers.
A shaggy black man, is that a man of colour with shaggy hair, or it was a black man covered in black hair?
Not sure, mate. Just says shaggy black man.
Right, so it's in the pronunciation. I think we've got either shaggy black man or shaggy black man.
Not too sure. All we do know is he's clearly a shapeshifter if he's switching between the two. Okay,
Well, it's a, it's a poser, isn't it? It's a thinker.
this is it. This is it. So a maid, Petronilla Demise, was tortured until she confessed that Alice hosted nightly orgies with demons and sacrificed roosters at the crossroads. Kind of badass.
Escalating quick.
Exactly. Well, Alice fled to England with the help of powerful friends because obviously if she was having nightly orgies with demons, she was connected to some nobility, you know? Just saying. Kind of attracts those guys. Okay, the Witches of Belvoir, and this was in England in 1618. This was called the Flowers Family Revenge. So Joan Flower and her two daughters worked as servants for the Earl and Countess of Rutland. After being fired for stealing, Joan cursed the family. The Earl's two sons soon fell violently ill and died in agony, screaming that the Flower women were on top of the bed pulling them. Joan supposedly took a glove belonging to the eldest son, rubbed it on a demon familiar, a cat named Rutterkin, boiled it in blood-laced water and pricked it with pins while cursing the boy. So the daughters confessed under torture that their mother taught them to summon spirits by saying, "Rutterkin, come out of the ashes." All three women died in prison, and they might have been hanged. That's what happens when you're a witch. So yeah, Isabel Gowdy. She was a witch from Scotland in 1662, and this was a woman who confessed to everything with no torture, so completely voluntary. So it's a pretty bizarre case. So Isabel was just a farmer's wife in Oldern, walked into a church one day and confessed, as I said, without torture, that she had been a witch for 15 years. Her testimony is still studied because it's so detailed and vivid. She claimed the devil, a tall man in grey with cloven hooves, met her in the churchyard, had sex with her. She said his semen was cold as ice. Cold as ice, the semen be sacrifice. You know the song. And marked her shoulder with his claw. She could turn herself into a hare by chanting, "I shall go into a hare, with sorrow and sighting and mickle care."
A hare, like one of the long rabbits.
Exactly, mate.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
She and her coven shot elf arrows at people to kill them. Again, I'm not sure what elf arrows is. She flew on beanstalks and blasted crops, and once dug up a corpse to use its fingers as magic charms. Okay, no one knows why she confessed. She could have just been batshit crazy, but like I said, something you just don't want to do in 1662 is confess to a load of shit when you hadn't done it. So I'm saying it was legit. She was probably a witch. No doubt she got executed anyway. Just what you do. Okay, staying in Scotland, the North Berwick Witches. This was from 1590 to 1592. It's called The Devil Danced with the King. So over 70 people were accused after King James' ship was nearly wrecked in a storm while bringing his bride home from Denmark. A maid named Gillias Duncan was caught secretly healing people and forced to confess that hundreds of witches met on Halloween at North Berwick Church. The devil himself appeared, described as a tall man in black gown, and played a trumpet while witches danced. They then sailed in seas to sink the king's ships by throwing a christened cat into the sea. So torture for Agnes was pretty extreme. So Agnes Sampson was kept awake for days, had her head thrown with a rope, which is basically just the rope was twisted until she screamed, and had every hair on her body shaven off to search for the devil's mark. So King James personally interrogated her. She whispered into his ear the exact words he and his wife had exchanged on the wedding night. So she knew shit. Proof she had demonic powers.
I'm guessing it was the witches who looked like the witches from the Craft who got the inspections for the devil's mark. Because they were pretty intrusive. I don't think the ones that look like Mother Shipton got much of an inspection.
I doubt it. Very much doubt it. Okay, so over to Germany. Maria Renata Singer von Massot, and this was in 1749, the nun who possessed an entire convent. This is a badass witch. A high-ranking nun in a Bavarian convent began acting strangely, screaming, convulsing, speaking in demonic voices, and claiming the devil was inside her. Soon, dozens of other nuns started having the same fits. They all just started biting themselves, seeing visions of black cats and demons, vomiting pins and nails. It was pretty painful.
I've heard this one.
Well, after years of chaos, the Mother Superior, Maria Renata, was accused of being the original witch who had poisoned the convent with demonic herbs and signed a pact with Satan when she was young. So on the scaffold, she admitted everything, said she had murdered her own father with witchcraft, and asked the crowd not to hate Satan too much because he'd been good to her. She was beheaded for all this Satan tomfoolery, and then burned in 1749. You know, beheading wasn't enough for this gal. They had to behead her and then throw her on the fire. So this was actually one of the last official witch executions in Germany. So it's quite a famous story. So you may have come across that one.
Is the nun based on that?
Not too sure, mate. Possibly. Terrible film, so I wouldn't know. But could potentially be. I like the fact they should definitely do a film about just some messed up nun that turns a whole coven into convent, even into other witches.
There's some creepypastas I've listened to and horror stories on various podcasts that are along them lines, and I can't remember if they're based on real or not, or even if that story might be one of them. There's one with a baby deer, which has the devil in it, essentially.
See, I've just been ruined by Cradle of Filth t-shirts because whenever I get a story like this, I instantly think of hot nuns getting off with each other, but that's just me.
Yeah, they were very eye-catching t-shirts, but very limited in imagination. Once you've seen 3 of them.
Bro, I won't buy them t-shirts for the imagination, I'll tell you that much.
Vampire nuns, yeah.
Hell yeah.
I have none of it.
Okay, so all the way up to as recent as we're probably going to get, 1928. This was the Pennsylvania witch murder, and this was the last person killed for witchcraft, which was in the US. So in York County, Pennsylvania, a reclusive healer named John Blymer became convinced that a local powwow doctor, Nelson Reimer, had hexed him and caused his lifelong bad luck. So Blymer and 2 accomplices broke into Reimer's isolated farmhouse at night, demanded to break the case, and when he refused to break it, they beat him to death with firewood and tried to burn the body, believing that destroying Reimer's spellbook and lock of his hair would lift the hex. The murder horrified America and ended the last serious belief in witchcraft-related violence on US soil. Blymer spent most of his life in a mental institution, so didn't go too well for him either.
Did he refuse to lift the hex, or did he say what hex?
He flat refused.
Did he say, I'm not going to lift that hex? Or it was like, what hex? I can't lift what I have no idea about.
No, mate. I reckon it was like, yep, I put a hex on you, and I ain't going to move it. What are you going to do?
Make
and then
me.
beat you to death.
Well, yeah, burn you.
This is it. So we're going to have a look at some witch trials. I want to focus on the UK because, as I mentioned sort of at the start of this podcast, it was quite interesting to see just the differences between each place within the UK and how we sort of treated the witches. So England experienced sporadic trials from the 15th century, escalating in the late 16th century under Protestant reforms. So there's about 500 people. 90% of the witches, by the way, were women. So there were a few dudes in there, and they were mostly executed. Often poor, elderly women accused by neighbours of causing illness, crop failure, livestock death, things like that. So Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General, he drove 1645 to 1647 panic in East Anglia. And again, if you haven't seen the movie Witchfinder General, watch it, because it's old school, but it's badass. I think it's from the, I want to say maybe 70s. So trials ended with the 1682 Bideford case. The last conviction overturned was Jane Wenham in 1712. So Scotland, as I mentioned, they just went pretty brutal on it. So Scotland's trials were the most intense in the UK, with 3,800 to 6,000 accused. 75% of those were women, so more dudes in Scotland, interestingly enough. 1,500 to about 2,500 of those were straight up executed, often burned after strangling. So the Kirkzeal and King James obsession post 1590 storms, which he blamed on witches, drove 5 major witch panics. Trials concentrated in the lowlands using torture like the iron collar, which is pretty brutal if you want to look that up. So yeah, Scotland did not have it good. As I said, Wales had pretty much minimal hysteria, so executions were fewer capita than England. And these, again, were often like healers using charms, accusations against the poor. So it was really sort of maybe like the downtrodden folk and those looking to get a bit spiritual.
So I think the Welsh were more inclined to lean towards that sort of thing because I don't think they had as much of the church going on as the rest of us for a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but they just didn't really take to it. As mentioned, trials in Northern Ireland.
Take to mass murder of women.
Hey, if Scotland and England do it,
they can't really fault the old Welsh for that.
Well, England and Scotland are doing it. What's your problem, Wales? Jump on board. When in England and Scotland, kill your witches. That's what happens. But hey, these are dark times. Moving on from the trials, we're going to have a look at some witch hunts. Okay, and a couple of famous witches in here. One you've heard of as well, the Pendle witches. So something we have kind of covered, but we'll scoot over those. So Agnes Waterhouse and the Devil's Cat, often called the first witchcraft trial under Queen Elizabeth's reign. This solitary yet chilling case in Chelmsford, Essex, involved a mother-daughter duo and their spectral feline familiar. It unfolded in July 1566 at the Chelmsford Assizes amid rising fear post the 1563 Witchcraft Act. Okay, Agnes was hanged on July 29, 1566, marking the nation's first execution for witchcraft. So the people involved in this was Agnes Waterhouse, and she was like an old widow, basically 63-year-old widow and labourer, accused of using a magic pretty much just for revenge. There was Joan Waterhouse, which was a daughter, and she was tried as an accomplice but acquitted after confessing lesser crimes. And then a gal called Elizabeth Francis. So she was a neighbour and she was a key witness who claimed to have introduced Agnes to witchcraft, which her daughter also testified. So Agnes's familiar, a demonic toad-like cat, which she named Satan, given by Francis after Agnes renounced God. So they were all in this together. It was said to shapeshift and do a bidding. She had allegedly sent it to torment neighbours, and it killed Agnes's own pigs by sucking their blood. Then it just went after people.
Well, this half frog, half cat thing.
Yeah, man. Satan.
Sounds like that bad guy in Thundercats, Slythe.
Does, or another creature of the Lumberwoods.
Yeah. Something a drunk lumberjack could see.
This is it. So the core accusations was murdering 4-year-old Agnes Brown by sending Satan to her bed where it lay on the child, causing nightmares, convulsions, and death within weeks. Symptoms were blamed on the spirit's sucking breath. A few of the other acts included souring a neighbour's beer, which was quite a common act, I think, amongst witches. I think that's when you don't want to really hurt someone. You just want to piss them off a bit, so sour the dude's beer.
Flatten the beer.
Exactly. Amongst souring the brew, she was said to cause a lot of illnesses, sickness. A few people died vomiting blood. And these were all said to be like the curses that they were putting on them. So Joan actually confessed to sending Satan to a neighbour's hog, killing them out of spite, but claimed ignorance. She was doing it all the time. I like that. It seemed to be she was sending her familiar out to do a lot of the dirty work, which is what you should do. They're there to do your bidding.
What was it you would I sent a cat that looks like a frog to kill your pig. Yeah, sure.
You would do, wouldn't you? Is that all stuff that's pretty easy to kind of like get out of? It's like,
I was over here using dead fingers as a magic charm. What are you on about?
that's it. Sathan's at the window licking his balls. He ain't killing any hogs. He's only killing his own hog. Catch my drift.
It's just a really big frog living the life of a cat.
This is it. I won't mind a familiar actually thinking about it. I think I might get familiar. How's about that? I'm not a witch, but I quite like a little demonic pet to do my bidding or nip to the shops for me. Stuff like that.
A giraffe.
I kind of like the sound of a toad cat. Be funny.
What about a croc with scales in the shape of a sleeveless top?
Ooh, now you're talking. I don't want to go too hard and end up with a badass crew of warrior cryptids.
You'll end up in a gang.
This is it, mate. So one story that we are slightly familiar with, and it's the Pendle Witches. Again, somewhere fairly close to us in Lancashire. So this was in the 1600s, 1612 to be precise.
For those of you who don't know, Lancashire is on the other side of the Pennines to Yorkshire. We have history.
Also grim in its...
Very grim history.
So in the rugged hills of Lancashire, England, this infamous trial exposed a web of feuding cunning folk. Now, cunning folk was another name for folk healers. Okay?
Cunning folk.
Cunning folk. So there was accused of forming rival covens. So it's kind of like you got Anchorman vibes here, where it's just covens pitching up against each other. So you think you're badass witches, you're not. We're badass witches. And then maybe they have a fight, do some cases and whatnot. So, sparked by local superstitions and a child's curse, it culminated in the Lancashire Assizes on August 18th to the 19th, 1612, where 10 of the 11 were accused and hanged on August 20th. A ninth grader, Janet Device, provided damning testimony, making this one of England's largest witch hunts. Okay, so we've got a few people from this. We've got Elizabeth Southerns. This was a blind 80-year-old matriarch. Okay, she died in jail confessing to the devil's pacts. A lady called Anne Whittle, and this was a rival clan leader, also elderly and blind, and she confessed to murders for revenge. Okay, Alison Device. This was a hot-tempered granddaughter whose curse on a pendulum ignited the trials. Elizabeth Device, Alison's mother, accused alongside her son James and daughter Janet, who turned state witness at age 9. So that's a young age to be giving accounts. A lady called Alice Nutter. She was wealthy. She was a widow from a kind of a higher social class, and she actually refused to confess, but still, witches be witches.
They do what they do, don't they?
This is it, mate. This is it. Okay, so a few of the activities that occurred on this. So a pivotal coven meeting occurred on Good Friday, April 10th, 1612, at Malkin Tower. This was Demicade's home, where 20 of 30 gathered to plot against the king. Sketchy, sketchy. Roast a stolen sheep and discuss murders. Yeah, we gotta stop this. Send in Matthew Hopkins, including hexing beer to spoil and causing miscarriages. So what were these gals up to?
Well, they're wasting their talents, because if they were magic and they could do this stuff, surely they can focus their things on more productive than ruining a man's beer. Surely they can aim it towards like a decent crop or stuff, like, because back then there was no real decent medication. So they could try and do that. And if they were deliberately wanting to be bad people, They could be more creative than ruining beer.
Seems to me witches are all about revenge. You know?
I think more about not being real, but
Well,
onward.
we'll see.
Continue.
Still got a little bit. Might change your mind.
You've got time.
This is it. We'll move on to one of the most famous witch trials, which was the Salem witch trials. Okay. Not going to go over this too much because, again, it could be a episode in its own because there was a lot of stuff happening around this. So this was around the era of 1692 to 1693. So it's 1 year. So this is America's most notorious witch panic, and it unfolded in colonial Massachusetts. Wasn't good. It erupted in January in 1692 in Salem Village, which is now called Danvers, and spread, leading to 200 accusations, 20 of which were executions. Wasn't good. I'll run over a few of the witches that I came across in this one. Tituba, who I mentioned earlier, was the enslaved woman from the Caribbean whose confession named others, and this, like I say, pretty much fueled the frenzy. Okay, so a lady called Sarah Good, who was a beggar, an outsider, one of her first accused. Her 4-year-old daughter, Dorothy, was also imprisoned, so pretty brutal. A lady called Bridget Bishop was a tavern owner, and she was hanged in 1692, known for her witch marks. So I think that meant she probably just had birthmarks.
Birthmarks or liver spots.
Yeah, and they took it to be witch marks, as you did back in the day.
Marks, probably.
Yeah, you never know. They'll just say it, won't they?
Or devil's marks.
Devil's marks.
She may have had genuine devil's marks. I'm not dismissing it out-handedly, but I do feel pretty dismissive.
Fair play. I appreciate your efforts. So, Rebecca Nurse and Martha Corey, these were Pierce Church members whose accusations shocked the community. Nurse 71 was hanged despite jury acquittal. So, again, what are you going to do?
It's coming. It's
coming.
You've had the finger. It's like these days. You get your sexual preferences questioned, and it's all over. Your career's done, even if you're proved innocent.
This is it. And as I mentioned at the start, poor old Giles Corey refused to plead, and they were pressed to death with stones, pretty much until the guts just came out.
I tell you, there was some really nasty tortures.
Oh, definitely, mate.
To die like a frog on the road is just
not good. Not good. Right, so I'm going to bring us to a close, mate, with a few cool little witch stories and hauntings that I found kind of cool, because we've got to keep it supernatural. Do you know what I mean? So staying in Salem, the only surviving building tied to the witch trials, the Witch House at 310 Essex Street in Salem, was home to Judge Jonathan Corwin, who condemned 19 innocents to death by hanging. Built between 1620 and 1642 and remodeled by Corwin, the site reeks of residual malice. You know I'm all about that residual energy. It was not good. So modern visitors who go to this place report chilling encounters, things like disembodied whispers accusing witch in the night, sudden icy gusts, and we're not a stranger to icy gusts and chills on this podcast, but even the witches are at it. Shadowy figures of hooded women gliding down the stairs. Actually, during a 2009 Ghost Adventurers investigation, who went to this place, crew members captured EVPs of screams and felt violent pushes. Artifacts like witches...
Did they involve Adam going, dude? Most.
Probably.
Yeah.
Or if they sent the Brits down there, most haunted, you'd have Derek Corey going, oh, I'm getting a witch.
Iffy, give me a beer.
This is it. And so witch bottles, which were usually filled with urines or pins, unearthed in 1944 to 1948 excavations, and they were just kind of put around the side. These exuded energy, not like the smell of stale piss, energy, mate, residual paranormal energy. Okay. So yeah, that place definitely has some witchy paranormal.
It shows energy and not some form of if you're digging up old wee and poo and whatever you in jars, is it not just some kind of well fermented jenkum?
I ain't no expert, but I reckon you can tell the difference between ectoplasm and dried piss.
Okay.
That's just me being a goddamn expert.
Just being an expert.
This is it. This is it. Okay, the Witch's Graveyard at Loon Lake. So this is in America. Established in 1876. Loon Lake Cemetery in Minnesota Township. Perched on a knoll overlooking the foggy lake near Petersburg, became a witch's tomb after a coven led by Mary Jane Terwilliger was allegedly beheaded for cursing locals in March of 1880. Mary Jane, buried with the axe used on her head, swore vengeance before dying on March the 5th, vowing death to any who disturb her rest. So the site's been abandoned since the early 1900s with no burials for over 90 years. This place is said to be a vortex of terror, so visitors feel sudden temperature plunges to freezing, hear cackling whispers and rustling cloaks in the windless night. They spot glowing orbs dancing over the crooked headstone. Stepping on Mary Jane's grave itself invites just pure doom, mate. 4 documented cases, including a man succumbing to carbon monoxide poisoning within 72 hours in the 1990s, a teen unexplained suicide in 2005, and fatal car crashes for others who mocked the curse.
Had nothing to do with indoor heating.
They weren't accidents. They went down awards. They were witches' curses, brother.
Did it turn out they were burying witches on an ancient Native American burial ground?
You know how this story goes. Of course it was.
I've heard it somewhere before, yeah.
Never learned, did I?
Obviously not. You know.
So, Ghost Hunters in 2012 in October captured a video of a translucent woman in rags lunging from the mist. So keep an eye out for that one. Her axe-wielding shadow etched in frost on graves, confirming the witch's undying rage.
Ooh.
Not the best, not the best. I'll just skip over this one lastly because we have covered it, and I believe it was the Cellars and Basements episode, but a place called The Cage in Ossife in Essex. So, yeah, this is like a kind of a cellar, yeah, but classed as a cage. It was built in the 1700s and held accused witches during the 1582 hysteria that gripped East Anglia, and that was the Hopkins
I
days.
believe I referred to it as an oubliette, which since I've thought about that comment, and it was wrong. I have never claimed to. I've never claimed to utter a single fact on any episode of this podcast. Facts are not our business. If you want facts, go somewhere else.
Exactly. Listen to some nerds.
Yeah.
So Ursula Kemp was a healer, shunned as a sorceress, and she was chained to the cage.
She was better at being a nurse than being a witch.
This is it.
You're not a witch, you're a nurse. We're not going to kill you. You're a crap witch.
But yeah, she was chained up in the cage and interrogated for familiars, which she classed as demonic imps. And then she was hanged in Chelmsford in February in 1582 alongside her. Yeah, man, yeah.
God, even them ladies weren't popular.
I know, man. Tell me about it. This was alongside her accomplice, Elizabeth Bennet. Kemp's furious spirit refused oblivion, transforming the tiny stone cell into Britain's most haunted house. So we may have also covered it on a haunted house episode, Britain's Most Haunted. Check that out.
Possibly.
In fact, we definitely did, because I remember the previous owner, Iona, endured nightly assaults starting in 2003, so I think that was the person who kind of did it up, but she soon got out of there because a spectral hand spanked her bare bottom while bathing. All matron. Cheeky. She heard guttural snarls of witch's whelp. There was just a lot of poltergeist activity, all kinds of stuff that basically says, hey, if you find a cage that's had loads of bad shit happening, don't open it up and live in it, because you're going to get spanked.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
It's just what happens. And so, bringing that to a close, as I said, I didn't really want to focus on modern day witchcraft. I wanted to see a bit more of the historical side. But there is a lot of modern day witchcraft, and that could be a bus in its own. But a lot of grim stuff there, where maybe we'll travel to other countries and see how they do stuff, but it's often referred to as contemporary paganism or neo-paganism, if you want to get down with the kids. And it encompasses pretty much everything from spiritual practices, brings in the folklore, loses a lot of, like personal intuition, that type of stuff, but ain't no one going to be smashing you with a rock or hanging you, or if you go to Scotland, you ain't getting burnt.
Well, it's changed over the years. There used to be the wore rags and had a wart on their nose and pointed noses. But nowadays it seems to be more blue hair and septum piercings.
It does, mate, and I ain't mad at that. Love me a good witch. So whether you're old school or whether you're new school, get practicing those spells, get spanking those bare bottoms, and do your witchy goodness. That's what I say, pal. Now, have I convinced you on the witch?
I'm trying to think how to give an answer without actually saying anything. I'm afraid I'm still out there with it, Lee. I'd struggle because if these people were doing magic and were capable of doing magic because witches are real, then these demons were quite happy to sink their willies in them in orgies and quite happy to be the familiars and get the bellies rubbed and get fed. Where were they when they were being squashed by rocks and hanged and drowned and burnt? Where were they then?
Okay, so say you're getting set up for a night, bit of gaming, you've got a beer there,
Yeah.
you pop your can, you drink your beer. What's this? Shit tastes sour. Are you going to be accusing your wife of being a witch?
Well, no, because I drink Carling. I mean,
It's always
sour anyway. But
fair enough.
But yeah, witches in general. I have very little time for your modern witch. I don't care how long you grow your hair, how overweight you are, and how long your dress is and how dark your nails are. I just don't believe you. Essentially, crystals don't work. Oh, I do have a question though. These ghosts of witches, or where these people practiced witches, because I know you like to link these things into ore deposits in the ground. Do you think, or is there any kind of link between where these witches were cast in and where deposits of ore are? Maybe they found these spots more powerful, which, because a lot of them seem to be more rural, which haven't been already dug up to build urban areas. So there's that. And the ghosts of these witches, are they there because they may have cast their spells, which may or may not have been stronger in these ore-rich areas?
Could be similar to things we've covered before, like in Wisconsin, the Black River Falls episode, where we pretty much put it down to ergot poisoning, and it all seems to be around the same era. I reckon you got a bit of all sorts. I reckon you got the ergot
I'm into
poisoning.
the ergot a bit there, but I'm leaning more towards trying to keep up with the modern.
Well, I definitely think if you have a town with rich ore deposits, some of that supernatural energy is going to be going into the local gals of that town, making them do some demonic orgies. That makes sense to me. That's logical.
Right, okay. So we've gone from ore deposits to an undying need for an orgy.
Mate, this is the spirit realm. It's kind of crazy.
Is this why... No, I'm not going to go there. I had a joke, but it is absolutely unacceptable. I'll tell you when we've stopped recording. But yeah, yeah. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I think ultimately you've not convinced me of witches. It's going to take longer.
That's a shame, mate, because on the bus on the way home, I think there was going to be some kind of demonic orgy. If you're not down for that.
As long as it takes place after my stop, then do you.
I'm sure it will, mate. I'm sure it will. And on that note, I will catch you on the next one, mate. Ding, bloody ding.
Ding, ding.